It's my covenant. It looks bad if I sit here and you sit here. So,
what about Morada
the
Asra?
people still know I'm the Morada, so they're watching on the video.
A Torah perspective. Thank you, the Rav Shlita, for hosting us, for Reisman, a good Madison. It's my kavod to introduce the Reshiva of Mir Chaver Me'etzes Gedol HaTorah, Rabbi Brudny.
Shus, the Morada Asra, Shus, Rabbi Binyamin, Kol HaKodesh Hazeh. We're gathering at a very somber juncture, really in our history. Some of us are already in the Bohem years already, and we haven't seen anything like this before. I remember a flu, the Asiatic flu, that when I was a young child, maybe 11 years old, infected Yom Kippur, but nothing of this kind of magnitude. Closing schools, closing yeshivas, closing shuls. This is a kind of a, Baruch Hashem, so far, our shuls here are allowed to be open with the proper medical restrictions, but all over the country, shuls are closed. It's something. Mazos, Hashem Lanu. I'm not the one to really address that. Who knows? We're already from those generations. What does Hashem want? So I will only address a little bit tools, coping tools, coping skills. In other words, instead of the situation overtaking us, we should get some level of learning how to handle ourselves and the situation. The facts are that suddenly, without any warning, a virus probably originating in China, just from the Makkah where it started, has spread throughout the entire world. A contagious virus, and to a significant, but Baruch Hashem, relatively small percentage of the population, a potentially fatal virus, Rahman al-Islam. Nothing that we could do to stop it, and nothing we do to combat it. What we could do is use the skills that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed us with to be shmartem nafsho seichem as best as we could, to listen to medical advice, to sound medical advice, and to the directives by our government representatives whose mandate is to take care and to look out for the health, welfare of its citizens, and do the best that we could do under the circumstances, like we just heard the Rav coming in, to obey the minimal hygienic needs, and v'chadome, not to be on top of each other, and not to shake hands, and not to be a chacham, because unfortunately, There is no such a thing as crying over spilled milk, but unfortunately those of us that were a little bit lax, just 5 days ago on Purim, and congregated without taking this imminent virus seriously, we do hear already, as 5 days later, we hear already quarantines and problems and even symptoms of people that must have contacted on Purim the virus because we knew better. Shmiras HaNefesh is very up there in Avodas Hashem. The Psukim that command us on Shmiras HaNefesh, on the halacha, the Rambam says that if a person doesn't obey the Aveira doesn't watch himself from the Aveira of Shmiras HaNefesh, whether injuring himself in a dangerous way or cursing himself, Bashem, is over a lav deraisa, a lav sheyesh by malchus, arguably, if it's done with a yesh by maisa. The Ber HaGoyla, in the very last piece in Shulchan Aruch Hashem Mishpat, says that Shmiras HaNefesh, watching out for your physical welfare, is such a strong mitzvah, Hizira Torah kol kach, because someone that's lax in Shmiras HaNefesh doesn't take his creation for the unbelievable privilege that it is to be zoichet to serve Hashem in this world and to get his just reward in the other world. And if a person is lax in Shmiras HaNefesh, it's as if he says, okay, I can make without it, big deal. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying myself. Let the chips fall where they may. He writes an expression, Ve'ein lecha zilzul apikursa yoisek doila mizeh, because it's showing that his mission in life, his need to preserve his health, to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is not very significant to him. Having fun is more significant. Taking it easy is more significant. So that's tremendous avodas Hashem. Doing right now the gewaldige mitzvah of Shmiras HaNefesh, of Pikuach Nefesh, of obeying and watching and being diligent. It's not something about Gashmias. To us, Bnei Yisroel, to us, Aman Nivchar, it's a manifestation and recognition of who we are, why we're here, and what we hope, Ezras Hashem, for many more years to accomplish collectively and individually, Be'ezer Hashem. The panic. The world is in panic mode. In an unreasonable panic mode. Emptying out the shelves, the supermarket. When they all say we have, it's fully stocked. There's no need for it. But we think very much it's becoming increasingly less and less popular to think by yourself. We do group thinking, mass thinking. The media thinks for us. Social media gets carried away for us. Half-truths, rumors. The world's coming to an end. You got to stock up with a lot of paper and a lot of water because... Yes, did you sit down and think about it? Did you sit down and think about it? Panic. Pachtu betzion chatoyim, azoy steht in der Gemara. There is an Ashrei Yodam Mefachei Tonit. And if you're taking it from an aspect of Shmiras HaNefesh, Rebbeinu Shalom, the famous story of the Baron Kotler, when he was at a Sheva Brachas in 1951 in Yerushalayim, and the Jordanians started shelling mortars across the Mandelbaum gate over there, and he fell under a bed. He was told that the Rosh Yeshiva has to fall under a bed to protect himself from a mortar shell. And they overheard him saying, "Rabbeinu Shalom, ich will leben zu kennen lernen dein heilige Torah." If we want to be protected, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should preserve us for the great mission of Ata B'chatonu, the Kiddush Tonu b'mitzvahsecha, the Kerav Tonu l'avodasecha, the Shilcha Haggadah v'HaKadosh Aleinu Karasa. That's beautiful. That's Ashrei Yodam Mefachei Tamid. It's the panic. It's the unreasonable panic. That's Pachadu B'tzir Chatoyim. The difference between a Maimin who lives with the Yud Gimel Ikrim, who lives with the Ikar Rishon and Imam in the Munashleim Moshe Aboyre Yizborach Shmoi, who Boyre Umanik, L'chol Abruim, V'hu Levadoy Oso Oise V'yasa L'chol Amasim. He's in charge of everyone walking the face of the globe. Will he get Chas v'Sholom the virus? Will he not get Chas v'Sholom the virus? How will the virus affect him? He is the one that unleashed this virus. He's the one that's guiding every germ to every address. And if you live with that realization, and this isn't something random, a virus escaped from Wuhan, China, and is flying around the world randomly, Rahman al-Islam. And everybody has to duck. But those of us who live with the Ikar Rishon, who levadoy asa oise v'yasa l'chol ha'masim. Concern? Certainly. Prudence? For sure. Uneasiness? Maybe. Fear? I don't know. Pachdu Mitzir Chatoyim. Terror? That's far and far from our emunah. Panic? That cuts the line between Ivdilonu min Hatoyim. We're Ivdilonu min Hatoyim. We're not panic people. But everything has its redeeming quality. This fear, the terrifying concern that's overtaken so many of us, has one redeeming quality. Chazal say that of the gifts that that have remained with Klal Yisrael, after losing the Beis HaMikdash, after losing the Kohen Gadol, after losing Nevi'im, is amazing Chazal in a few places. The tefillas that we daven on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Unlike the tefillas of a whole year, there's a special thing, the tefillah she'anu mispal on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and it's a question, what is that? And I once thought a thought. I shared it this afternoon with the Gedolim, and they approved. I could say it. The Gemara says in Erevin that I could pater kola oilam kulay midin tefillah. Miyom shechorav Beis HaMikdash v'yadata. There's an halacha in Hilchos Tefillah that a shikar isn't allowed to daven. You can't count him for a minyan. Klal Yisrael, the Navi says, from the time of Churban Beis HaMikdash, because of all the tzoros and everything we've gone through, and all the misery we suffered, we have a status of a shikura v'loy miyayin. We're drunk, we're intoxicated not with wine, alcohol. We're intoxicated with all that's been going on in our history. Shikura v'loy miyaya. But there's an halacha in Hilchas Shikras that a pachat is meifig yayin. Person that isn't perfectly sober and has a terrifying moment, that terrifying moment could elevate him into sobriety. It's bodoku menusa. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, there's a concept called Eimas Adin. Kol shana sherasha mitchilasa soifa liyasasha b'soifa. B'tachnunim yadaber rush. A person in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur feels terribly insecure. Kadala muchirashim. Those are days where tefillah is expected from a person, and proper tefillah, because Yomim Noiroyim elevates us above that stupor of Shikura V'loy Miyayim. Rabbi say, we are in Yomim Noiroyim. The Rebbeinu Shalom has turned the world upside down. Chazdei Hashem. It's lined with Midas Harachmin, with Chesed. But the world is upside down. The entire world is on lockdown. The entire globe is on lockdown. The entire civilized world is on lockdown. Lahaya Kazais. There's one redeeming thing. It's time for tefillah. The pachat that we all feel should be able to elevate us above the stupor of Shikura V'loy Miyayin, of this intoxicated state of Kanor Kasus Shaitef, running and going and coming and not having a chance, a sober moment. Well, Hashem has given us enough to push us back into real sobriety. The din tefillah applies now. Hashem should help us, at least in our community. We should continue to be able to use the Vatik Messias. We don't know what the future holds in the near future. But one thing is, wherever, in any venue, we must get back to meaningful tefillah, to Yiddish tefillah. Let's go back to Rosh Hashanah concepts, to Yom Kippur concepts. We all daven on a totally different level when it's Yomim Noiroyim, when it's the first night Slichis, when it's Erev Rosh Hashanah Slichis. Ne'ilah! The world is upside down. The Rebbeinu Shalom has turned the world upside down. It's a zman for tefillah, Rabbi say. And Hein Keil Kabir is not going to be Mamayas as tefillah, our tefillah, will be Makabal as tefillah seinu, Tachnunenu, Shavaseinu. And we should be Zeicha to a Yeshua Kroiva. B'meheira b'yameinu be'ezras Hashem Yisborach. And through that we will come to the greater Yeshua of a Sechazena Einenu B'shuv Cholatziyim B'rachman. Thank you.
We will now have a privilege to have words from the Rish Kailo of Chaim Berlin and Rav Kahal Talmid HaYeshiva. Rabbi Noam Kol Shlita. Shkach.
B'shus, the Rosh Yeshiva, Shlita, B'shus, the Marad Asra. I'll try in my inadequate way to echo some of the important points that the Rosh Yeshiva just made. I would like to try. Where should I put it? I would like to try to bring out how to view these extraordinary events from a Torah perspective. There's something in the Torah called a dever. And in the Mishnah in Tainis, Misanin u'masriyan, there's a reaction when it reaches the level of a dever. there's tainus, there's tekiyas, special tefillas, special brachas that are added to Shemona Esrei. This viral epidemic hasn't reached that level of mortality as delineated in the Gemara. The shir that the Gemara says for when it has a din of a dever. But nonetheless, the threat is there. It's a threatened magefa. It's a threatened epidemic. Epidemiologists are trying desperately to prevent it. The Mabit says in the Sefer Beis Elokim, the Shar Atfilin, Perek Tezayin, he brings out the difference between a dever, an epidemic, in the Torah, by David HaMelech, Baal Pa'or, Kairach, and those that took place later in Klal Yisroel's history, Bizman HaMishnah, HaGemara, and what he calls Bizman Hazeh. Those that are in the Mikra, there was no Chayli. Those that were affected simply didn't survive. The Oynish was imminent and swift. In other words, it was clearly Bahashgocha for Averis. Bizman Hazeh, meaning beginning from the Zman HaMishnah, it's Yoseh Korov L'Teva, he says. There are those that take ill, there are those that get better, there are those that, he says, are boireach, they take precautions or they flee, and they're not affected. And he asks the question, how does it help to run away? Or in our context, how does it help to take precautions? And he says, the tsar of the fleeing is a golus. The tsar, the dislocation, itself is a kapara. It could be bimkaim, what could have been worse. How does a person know what to do? So the Mabit says, im yosha darkoi, which means, is he an erlich yid? An erlich yid is standing b'yosheb with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then the Eibishter, he says, is noisein b'liboy lahadrichoi. How far he should go, what's prudent, what's sensible, and what's beyond that, what's panic. Some is nigzar aleim yisurim, and that's the dislocation and the golus. All of this, he explains, is part of the Hester Ponim, Bizman, Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan. It was begolui, it was clear that it was Boal Averis. As soon as they did Shuvah, it stopped. Now it seems random. That's a Hester Ponim. The words of the Ma'abit, Shahamis Akesh, the one who will be stubborn is Yochel Lachshoiv, that it's not Bahashgocha. The word Dever, if you look in the Sefer HaSharoshim L'Radak, in the Malbim also, it's from the same Shoirish of Dibur. And I think the reason is because a Dever is Chayim Umaves, Chayim is Bertzainai. A threat to life is a pointed message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a Dvar Hashem. Chayim is Bertzainai. It's not something which is delegated to others. It's the Eibishter's Asik itself. It's a Dibur. So it's a message. This, what's taking place today, is a threat of epidemic, and it should be taken seriously. I'm not speaking medically, that of course everybody, as the Rashiva said, everybody has to obey what the doctors and the other Askanim are saying. I'm talking from a Ruchniistic point of view. It has to be taken seriously. It's, as the Rashiva said earlier today, Mohumas Maves. And even if you feel that your health is not threatened by this, which for many people is perhaps not unreasonable, but nonetheless, if you're surrounded by a threat of epidemic and experts that are taking it very seriously, then you have to realize that the Rebbeinu Shalom is sending a message. If the world is turned upside down, which it is, then the Rebbeinu Shalom is trying to get your attention. Imagine a father that wants to give his son a patch. He deserves a patch. And he gives him a patch. And this son doesn't realize that the father hit him. He thinks that the kid standing next to him was teasing him, and he hit him. That was a wasted patch. the father's going to have to give him another patch, because there was no message. The message was not received. They say from one of the Gedolei Yisroel, I think it was from Rabbi Chanan, that every bullet has an address on it. It's got somebody's name on it. It's important to realize that the bullet that misses a person whizzes by your head, half an inch from your head. That bullet also had an address on it. It might have had your address on it. And you avoided it by doing what you should do, by doing tshuva or ma'asim tovim. Just because it missed you doesn't mean that it wasn't targeted at you. So what should we do? So obviously we have to do tshuva, we have to be mesaken ourselves. On what? What should we do tshuva on? Needless to say, it's not for me to speak out what Klal Yisroel has to do. It's for Gedolei Yisroel, for Gedolei Hadar. What I will say though is this. I'll say the words of Shlomo HaMelech by the Chanukas HaMikdosh, Asher Yedun Ish Nega Levovoy Uforas Kappa Bel Abayis Hazeh. Everybody knows his weaknesses, and if he doesn't, it's high time for a little introspection to try to identify what they are, and should work on strengthening those areas in which he's weak. Maybe it's learning, which probably can apply to everybody. Maybe it's davening, which probably can apply to everybody. Maybe it's not looking at things that a person shouldn't look at. Maybe it's not speaking things a person shouldn't speak. Not listening to things a person shouldn't listen to. Gemara says in Tainis, on Daf Chaf Aleph on the base, Gemara is talking about a dever. And the Gemara says that in a certain neighborhood, a certain shchuna, they were not affected by it at all. And the Gemara seeks to identify the reason for that. So the Gemara first says one thing, the Gemara says, no, that's not the reason. The reason is there was a particular Baal Chesed there, which the Gemara describes the kind of Chesed that he did. And that was the reason why that area was not affected. So maybe we should try to strengthen ourselves in this area of Chesed. For example, maybe try to attend a Simcha, or a Shiva, or a Levaya, Bar Minan, which you might otherwise not push yourself to attend, but in these times when so few people will attend, assuming of course it's not unsafe for you to do it, maybe we should push ourselves for it. We should daven. What should we daven for? We should daven, among other things, that the Eibishter should give us the hadrocha, how to protect ourselves, to do what's safe and prudent and not to overdo things, to make the right decisions for yourself, for your family, for your children, for your parents, sometimes for neighbors, and be mispal that you should be the ish hayosha that the Mabit says that the Eibishter will be madrichim. We should also bear in mind the words of the Gemara in Shabbos on the Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, La'olam yivakesh odom rachamim koidem sheyechla shelo yechla. He should ask that he should not become ill. Sheim yechla, because once chalila a person is not well, then it's already a much harder. He needs a schus. The Gemara says then already needs a schus to escape. So we should be mispal that we should be unaffected. As much as possible, we should be unaffected by this. Also, there's a great deal of inconvenience, dislocation, expense, travel difficulties, cancellations of simchas, postponed simchas. We shouldn't complain about it. This is what the Mabit says, that the Nisa, leaving the place of the Magefa, he says, is the kapara. So in our context, these shmiras that we have to do, these inconveniences that we have, these expenses that we have, the Rebbeinu Shalom may be giving you an easier way out to avoid illness and chalila worse. So don't complain about it. I'm just going to add one thing to what the Rashiva said about panic and hysteria. Just want to say over from Rabbeinu Yoina in the Sharei Tshuva. It says a Chiddush. Pasuk says, Kisoyma bilvovcha rabim hagoyim ha'ela mimeni eicha ucha lahayrisha lo sira mehem. Pasha, this was for the Dar Boi Aretz. But Rabbeinu Yoina understands that this is a mitzvah l'dairis. And he brings another pasuk. Kiseitze lamulchoma lo yavecha v'reisa sus v'rechav am rav mimcha lo sira mehem. This also, you would think, is for soldiers going out on a Milchemes Mitzvah, Milchemes Rishus, for Klal Yisroel. Rabbeinu Yoina learns that this is a mitzvah, l'dairis, for every yid and every matzav. And I'll read you his words. Huzharnu bazeh, shem yireh ha'odam, ki tzara kroiva, tiye Yeshuas Hashem b'levovoi, v'yiftach aleh, ki inyan shenem ma'ach korov lireyav yishoy, v'chein kosuv mi'at vatiri me'enosh yomos. Rabbeinu Yoina says, allowed in the Torah to be too frightened. The Rebbeinu Shalom should give us the wisdom to deal with this prudently, sensibly, not to brush it off on the one hand, not to get hysterical on the other hand. V'hogim ba'adenu, v'hosam me'aleinu, oyev, dever, v'cherev, v'rov, shmor tzeiseinu, v'yenu, l'chayim, u'l'sholem, me'atov, v'ad olam.
Amen.
We'll now be privileged to hear words from the Yeshiva of Yeshiva Torah Das and Rav of Aguda of Madison, Rabbi Yisroel Reisman Shlita.
My shver went through the Holocaust as a youngster, and there's something he always used to tell us. He used to tell us that when the Nazis came and they went through the ghetto and the selection and the transport and the work labor camps, he said that when the Tzara came, it was not as predicted, that some people strived, shone, you saw in them Yerushalayim, and some people just fell apart and were full of self-pity and were not an example or strength to anyone else. It wasn't as you would think. It wasn't the Yidden on the Mizrach Vant that were a source and pillar of strength for everybody. And it wasn't necessarily the local tailor or the person not considered chashuv that was involved in himself. When the Tzara came, there were people from both groups that strived, that shone, that were pillars of faith and emunah. And there were people from both groups who fell apart and were busy self-pitying themselves and not connecting to the Rabbeinu Shalom. This is something I heard from Yisroel Zechreinu Levracha many, many times. As a Rav, I've seen this with personal challenges. On, of course, a much smaller scope, but when you have individuals who come back from a doctor, lo yaleinu, with a terrible diagnosis, or people who go through the trauma of losing a job and worrying about paying their bills and their mortgage, people who have different types of tzaras, shidduchim and other things. There are some people who deal with the tzara and the tzara with the strength of faith in the Bari Olam. It's a time of aliyah. And there are people that fall apart. They're just worried about themselves. They're looking for others to calm them down, to worry about their own personal comfort. You don't know a person until he's tested. We don't look to be tested, but you don't know a person until he's tested. Some people in Itzara become Asmidim. They become people who daven v'sikin. They become people who are makbid on being mavisedra, on answering amens. And there's some people, when they're full of self-pity, they stop coming to minyan, they stop going to learn. Rahman al-Litzlan. When a tzara hits a person, his goal should be that when he looks back at it years later, he should feel he dealt with it correctly. If a person has such a goal, then he behaves differently. We're now in the midst of a very difficult challenge. We're in the midst of a challenge that just seemed to come to us from behind, out of nowhere. And suddenly we're challenged in our sedarim, in our happiness with many things at home, in our learning, in our davening. I can't understand it. It's a shas tzara. You walk into a shul, a beis medrash, you have chavrusas, and they're busy schmoozing about what's going on. They're talking about Costco and talking about the government and the politicians, the mayor and the governor. In the middle of the Seder Alimud. That's not, where's the Yiddishkeit of the person? A Yid b'shas tzara, when it's time to learn, he learns more carefully. When it's time to daven, he davens more carefully. How could it be that people are concerned about a tzara and a tzara, and they sit with the chavrusa and they talk about all these narishkeit? It's Yena Yid who, when the tzara came, just fell apart. It fell apart. Where's the Yehudi Shabbai? Somebody who's proud to be a Ben Torah, who's proud to count himself in the Am HaNivchar, when it comes to Shas Tzara and he goes to a Sedarim, he buckles down more. He shows up more. He believes that the Bari Elam is Yeshiv Kenegdai. We have to wake up to it. It came, this crept up upon us so slowly, so suddenly, that we don't even realize. We don't even realize. How could it be? Could it be? Could it be that in a beis medrash, during a shas tzara, people are schmoozing about these narishkeit? B'shas tzara, a yid takes things more seriously. B'shas Magefa, David said, to be makbid on 90 yamains a day. Tzaddik be'emunah sayichya. To makbid on 100 brachas a day. Ashrei ageva hukam oil. Something like this happens, so we should be makbid. To get to shul, to hear brachas, to answer 90 yamains. We don't know if the Rebbeinu Shalom will cause chalila that our ability to go to shul will also be taken away from us. Who knows when and if it'll happen, chalila. There are communities where it's happened. You can't go anymore to hear 90 yamains. Without chazor sashatz, without brachas, you're not going to get 90 yamains. Tzaddik be'emunasa yichya, it's a schus to live with the emunasi, with the yamains, the yichya. A Yiddish man, someone who counts himself among the Shleimei Amunei Yisroel, goes to time of difficulty and has a goal that when this passes, it should be soon, and he looks back, he should feel that was a time of chizuk. That was a time of chizuk. It's not that way today. Today, the hysteria made it almost like a sports event for people to discuss and talk about what happened today and what happened yesterday and what happening tomorrow. We have to put it behind us. We have to take it with the ernstkeit, with the seriousness which it deserves. Bishvili nivra ha'olam. Bishvili nivra ha'olam. When I get stuck on Avenue M in the morning in a traffic jam and I'm frustrated, I just think to myself, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, this whole traffic jam is just for me. The person wants to see if I'm going to get frustrated. The whole traffic jam is my fault. Blame me. If I go down a different avenue M would go fine. If Bishvili nivra ha'olam, I take it differently. What's going on in the world today, we have to have the attitude of Bishvili nivra ha'olam. That this is here so that we can deal with it well, so that our hashkafa could be solid. And every one of us should have a goal that when we look back at this time, we should feel we were mechazik in something. We took something and strengthened ourselves. We took something and made something good out of it. It's a goal. It's a goal in any shas tzara. It's the difference between the person who falls apart and the person who is a pillar of faith, of emunah, of betachin. things have gotten serious enough that Yidden, wherever we are, we have to begin to understand that it's b'shvileinu, it's so that we should respond, and that we should respond in an ehrlicher way. Where people can't go to minyan lo yoleinu, they should at least, you have to daven b'yechidus, should at least be davening a vesikin yechidus. Today vesikin is 7 o'clock. If you take your davening seriously, see, it means something. It means something. A vesikin minyan, a vesikin non-minyan, the stomach has the kaiches of a minyan otherwise. The point is that we have to be thinking. We have to be thinking b'shas tzara of the Rabbeinu Shalom and our connection to him, and what it means to be a Fruma Yid in a world of billions, where everybody is busy with the hysteria that's going on. And I've noticed, the more someone is connected to the internet, the circles that are more internet connected are more hysterical. And in our circles, it's the circles that don't have it, it's less hysterical because you're bombarded a whole day with all this information. It was refreshing. What's the Shabbos I mentioned in passing, a run on toilet paper. And one person came over to me and says, "What are you talking about toilet paper?" I realized normal people don't know anything about it. Why should anybody talk about this? Why? For what reason? Australia. For what reason? The point is that we have to be better from what's going on. We have to be better, we have to rise to it, it'll pass. But we have to look back and feel that we rose to the occasion. I want to tell you about an incident that happened with Rav Palm. He suffered from a tumor in his stomach. This is not the illness of Seif Yamav. This happened probably 10 or maybe even 15 years before. They found a tumor in his stomach. First they thought it was food poisoning. At the end they discovered he had a tumor. And they weren't sure how to deal with it. So they took him to 2 doctors, 2 experts. Mishpacha took him, and they had very different ways of choosing how to deal with it. Rav Palm chose one of the 2 ways. And the Mishpacha told me that he doesn't want to explain to them or to his wife what his cheshbon is. Why he chose this over the other. They were busy, this reason, that reason, asking advice. Rav Palm just machlit, he's going with one of the 2 ways. So I asked him why he chose this over the other. Listen to a lesson. He said, look, I'm a chayla mesukin. Why am I going to a doctor? We're obligated to do a normal ishtadlus. I didn't go to any doctor. I went to one expert, I went to another expert. He gave me one approach, and he gave me a second approach. His approach involves more bittul Torah, and his approach involves less bittul Torah. It's a good ishtadlus. I chose the one with less bittul Torah. I'm yaitz my ishtadlus. I'll explain that to your wife. And it's a musar. There's a shas tzara. You keep your head on straight. Where do you go? You have to ishtadlus. You have to what you have to do. He said, why should I choose the ishtadlus that's more bittul Torah, not the one that's less bittul Torah? We should have such a blick, such a way of looking at the world. B'shas tzara lo yaleinu, but everybody has shas tzara. We never had anything like this. Torah Das is open 101 years, as they remind us all the time. They had to close for a snow day. They never had to close for a few weeks in 101 years. They never had to close for a couple of weeks. It never happened. It's happening. It's happening now. So what's our response? To schmooze about the latest news? Our response has to be to take it seriously. Bishvili nivra ha'ilam. The whole world is in a tumult, but the Rebbe is looking to see what you're going to do, how you're going to respond. Perashach should give us the seichel, the kayach, and really the frumkeit, to respond properly and make this a period of aliyah. Lanu, l'chol acheinu b'nei Yisroel, we should come through, be'ezus Hashem, gesundheit, but better people from this whole experience. Yeshakayach.
Just wanted to thank the Rishiyus for Dracha tonight and for Torah Anytime for streaming tonight's share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.